AZ Fudd, Olivia Miles, Lauren Betts. Depending on who wins that lottery, that's going to depend on who goes one. If Washington wins, it's Fudd. She's from the area. If Dallas wins, they're going to bring Fudd to play with, obviously, Paige. If Minnesota wins, I think they go Miles with the point. If Seattle wins, they go with Miles, and the same thing with Chicago.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
So game one, I already made a mistake. I put my touchdown prop bets in hours ago. When you and I started talking before kickoff, I got so excited and I bet him again without even thinking that I already did it.
Oh,
I was like, yeah, Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
I was like, and then I was like, wait, I think I already did this. And I scrolled down. I was like, yeah, you already did do this. And I was like, that's okay. That's okay.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
I'd give them no excuses for the mistakes that Lamar and that team made when they played Buffalo in the playoffs last year. But I do think they've done enough to improve the team in the offseason. I think the offense was way better. The defensive line and the offensive line played really well in the back half of the year last year. Almost all of that talent is back. And I think the Ravens are going to be right there.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
To your point, Craig, if anybody else is able to make a dent, it'll have to happen now. ESPN has had about 3% market share. Their goal is to get to 10% by next year. So if they can't make a big push this year and really see a lot of the new features that they put on their apps, a lot of the integrations with ESPN fantasy products, with ESPN, flagship products across the board, if those don't pay off soon this football season, it might be curtains for them.
Newswire, only.
Another wrinkle in the Clippers' Kawhi Leonard scandal as Adam Silver addresses the media. Plus, the WNBA playoff picture is officially set. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Front Office Sports Today from FOS Studios here in New York City. I'm Baker Machado.
And I'm Renee Washington, and thank you guys so much for joining us. Each and every weekday as we chat the biggest stories in the business and culture of sports. We also have U.S. men's national team legend Josie Altidore giving us his thoughts on the upcoming World Cup and his minority ownership with the Bills. But first, let's dive into the headlines and the shoot-around.
Yeah, and let's start in the NFL, Renee, as week 2 of the season kicks off tonight with Amazon's first Thursday game of the season. And it features a prime matchup between the Commanders and the Packers. Now, Amazon's 4th season of NFL rights also comes as the streamer will see better matchups for their Thursday night games this season. This after NFL owners voted to lower the notice required to flex or move games from Sundays to Thursdays from 28 to 21 days, which hopefully will juice the ratings here.
Yeah, and this is for Amazon Prime, as you mentioned, coming in a year 4 to build off of last year's momentum. They saw a 13% boost in their average viewership of around 13 million per game. So they want to continue that. They had their first playoff game. They had a lot of firsts, including this year where they're going to have the first Christmas Day game. So this is another way to make sure they're crossing the T's, dotting the I's, getting the details correct. And so when the owners voted to move up that timeline, this also allows for those games between weeks 14 to 16 this season to be eligible for a flex. We saw it last year, and we know, as we have already seen and talked about, like Andrew Whitworth mentioned, for a fact, players, fans, organizations want to see the best teams at the end of the season, especially when the playoffs are on the line, in primetime
Sure,
games.
but the only counter argument to this is some fans maybe who bought tickets hoping it would be on a Sunday then have to change their schedules because of the Thursday games. But absolutely, it's a big win for us, the viewers, obviously, as well. All right, let's move to the NHL as Minnesota superstar Kirill Kaprizov reportedly turned down an 8-year, $128 million deal with the team that would have been the largest in NHL history. This according to NHL insider Frank Saravalli. Now, the news sent shockwaves through the hockey world, with the Wild's GM saying he doesn't, quote, want an all-out panic among the team's fans. Now, Kaprizov is in the final year of his 5-year, $45 million contract and can become an unrestricted free agent this summer, Renee.
Yeah, to turn that 18-year extension, which would have set records. I mean, we're talking about $2 million more in terms of AAV ahead of Leon Draisaitl. Also, the total value more than Alexander Ovechkin's deal that he got back in 08 with the Capitals, that 13-year, $124 million contract. So he left a lot of money on the table, but the expectation is because there is more money he could get, especially after last season. But it is wild because, as you mentioned, for the Minnesota Wild general manager Bill Guerin, he said he doesn't actually know how this leaked. He said their team hasn't said anything about it. He doesn't expect that for Kaprizov and his agent. They mention anything. So unsure how this became public, but it does have fans in a tizzy. He did say a deal should be done. He's being optimistic. But as we know, when it comes to these negotiations, anything is possible.
All right, let's move to the World Cup as select soccer fans were able to start purchasing their 2026 World Cup tickets this week. This through a pre-sale lottery through the tournament sponsor Visa. But according to The Athletic, a lot of fans were met with long wait times, some as long as an hour, while others received error messages that led fans to ask on social media if others were able to get tickets. Now, FIFA cited, quote, extraordinary demand as the reason for these errors, but huge hiccup already here.
And there have been so many hiccups, and that's been the concern with the World Cup is every step of the process, there's been something else that seems a little bit more challenging than it should be, and this is the latest. You have people from all over the world, all different languages, cultures, that are waiting to not only have to wait an hour, but also, as I saw screenshots, it's an extremely long, it looks like a contract, a legal contract, just to get through the waiting process. So now you have people confused, unsure of the process. Of course, tickets do not officially go out on sale until October. So all of this is just to have a chance to be in the pre-sale. They still have to finalize. They said they have to remove the bots. They have to finalize who gets in that pre-sale come October 1st. So all of this is just for waiting and more waiting. Because they're not even able to purchase tickets yet.
And nobody even knows what the price of the tickets are as well. And the biggest other concern is if you keep having all these select groups, who knows by the time that it comes available to the general public what tickets are even available for those people at that time.
And we still have until September 19th for people to get in this process. So it's a messy process.
Well, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver addressed reporters for the very first time since news of the scandal involving the Clippers and Kawhi Leonard broke. He said he wants the NBA investigation into alleged salary cap circumvention to play out. This all comes as Pablo Torre have revealed another interesting piece of information, this into possible payment ties between Leonard, Clippers owners, and a now bankrupt environmental company. So let's take a look at this in today's main event. All right, let's bring in FOS reporter Alex Schiffer, who was at Adam Silver's press conference yesterday. So what did the commissioner say regarding the Clippers scandal here?
Yeah, he wants to let it play out in real time. He was not calling his shot or making any kind of prediction as to where this is going to go. He also said that the burden of proof is on the NBA to prove the Clippers circumvented the salary cap, which I think in a way almost takes the pressure off the Clippers and puts down the NBA to prove that this Kawhi Leonard aspiration situation was for that, which I thought was kind of telling that he was almost like taking the heat off of Steve Ballmer in a little sense.
Yeah, we have heard, according to Pablo Torre, actually, that reported that one of Kawhi Leonard's payments from aspiration was late, and then there was the Clippers co-owner did invest $1.99 million, and suddenly Kawhi got paid. What else are we finding out? Pablo Torre's got a lot, but it seems like there's other, little drops here and there of information we're getting that just is showing there's more to this story.
Yeah, it's been interesting. Pablo's initial report said he found nothing on social media. Then some internet sleuth dug up that Clippers aspiration tweet for Kawhi's birthday. Then there was the Boston Sports Journal report about Kawhi Leonard having stock in aspiration that took that deal up to almost $50 million. So it's been interesting the way this has come out in bits and droves and whatnot, but this morning's reporting from Pablo basically said he has documents that have Dennis Wong investing in in aspiration shortly before Kawhi Leonard got another payment from them, which again, I think the talk of smoking gun during this whole thing I feel like we keep moving the field goal posts, and that is more damning of the Clippers, but we do not have anything that has at least been released to the public yet that is like a email of, hey, aspiration, this is Steve Ballmer. I'm about to Venmo you $50 million. Please use this money to pay Kawhi Leonard. We don't have anything like that yet. So that while this pushes closer to something more definitive, I think that it's still worth noting that we still don't have anything that says A to B to C, this is why this happened. And that is important in terms of the NBA and how they're going to go about this.
And it's also important when you look at the CBA because there's been mention around the fines that potentially Ballmer could face, but also the fact that Adam Silver is not the lone final decision on what happens. There is a third party that also is involved in the punishment. So realistically, what could the NBA even do with these findings?
Yeah, it's interesting. And to your point on the CBA, I think a lot of people, and this was even a talk amongst us reporters before Adam Silver sat down yesterday, was that we didn't do our due diligence when this first came out of looking over the entire parts of the CBA and how it relates to cap circumvention, because to your point, Renee, Adam Silver said himself he has very broad power in what he can do here, whether it be financial penalties or draft picks. Steve Ballmer is one of the richest owners in all of sports and in the United States. I don't know how much you can fine him that where he's going to feel it in his wallet, but the CBA allows for the Clippers to be punished through circumstantial evidence, which I think there's a lot of right now, but Adam Silver didn't outright say he doesn't want to do that, but it seems not to be his preference. But then to your point also, this could go to an arbitrator where, again, the NBA has to kind of prove this is what happened and this is what we found. So I think that a lot of people are sort of playing judge and jury right now, saying, like, look at everything they have, like, this is it. But the CBA, there's a lot more entanglements that, to your point, drag this process out and in some ways with the arbitrator take the power to punish out of the NBA's hands. And I think the NBA also is trying to avoid a lawsuit here in case they are wrong on this. And I think that was kind of Adam Silver's point yesterday, was that this has only happened one other time in 25 years, which is the Timberwolves with Joe Smith. We do not see investigations like this a lot, and if we're going to throw the hammer down, we want the T's crossed and the I's dotted, and I think that's why this is going to play out over months and maybe not days or weeks the way some people are acting.
We have about a minute left with you. Adam Silver addressed other topics outside of the Clippers as well. Anything else newsworthy come from his press conference?
You know, the no news on domestic expansion to me just is interesting because I continue to kind of see domestic expansion versus international expansion. It's almost like NBA Europe is facing off against the rebirth of the Supersonics and a Vegas team. And I do think his comment was interesting about, there's market confusion with all these team valuations right now of what an expansion team price would look like. I hear him, but also it's just like the expansion bid price to me is higher than it was a year ago, and that's good for all the owners. So what we see first of domestic versus international, and when he drops more news about this NBA Europe League, I'm going to be very fascinated by. And teaser, it might be at Tuned In next week where he's talking.
Very good point. Yes, he will be speaking at the big event on 9/16. All right, coming up next, guys, we're talking to Josie Altidore about the future of the U.S. men's national team.
Vegas knows how to celebrate. If you're headed to Vegas for your birthday, plan ahead to get all the birthday freebies the city has to offer. Just by showing your ID, you could get free cash play, scratch cards, drinks, and food at various venues on the Strip. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
College football can't allow Notre Dame to have the type of, year they have and schedule they have, and honestly put them up against other teams. Because Notre Dame looks like they're going to be a decent football team. They could lose, I think, next week to Texas A&M, Joe. Right. I don't think it's a great football team, but still a ranked team. And then run the table and still be in the playoff and absolutely beat nobody. The worst schedule I may have ever seen in college football is Notre Dame this year.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
Quarterback or coach has to answer for it.
Right.
Goff, Campbell. Listen, I'm not firing Dan Campbell already. I might be shipping Goff. I don't know, but I think the Lions. Again, it's week 1. Are we overreacting? I think the panic meter in Detroit is blaring. I think people are wondering when do the Pistons start.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid. It's the most beautiful time of the year. No, not because of foliage or pumpkin spice lattes. It's because of football. SportsGrid has you covered all season long, covering every snap, every score, and every line move. Prepare, watch, win. Weekends are for winners. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back, everyone, to Front Office Sports Today with Renee Washington and Baker Machado. Well, the countdown is on as North America is set to host the 2026 World Cup. But the big question, will the U.S., not just from an infrastructure standpoint, but the U.S. men's national team be ready for their big stage? Well, to ask that and so much more, let's bring in a legend on the soccer field, former U.S. men's national team striker and minority owner of the Buffalo Bills, the great Josie Altidore. Loving the Bills Mafia sweater. Obviously, we'll talk football and the Bills here in just a little bit, but let's start with the World Cup. Do you think that the men's national team is ready for this and everything that sort of comes with this?
I mean, I'd like to think so. I think, it's easy to kind of look at all what's going on now and get super excited and have all these opinions. But, I like to think of it that, when the ball starts to roll in June 2026, SoFi, sold out arena. I bet on our guys to show up. So I'm really excited for what's to come. I'm so excited for soccer to land back here in the fashion that it has, and we all hope that it has the effect that it had in '94, that there's a big boom in the game, in the ecosystem, and we reap the benefits of that.
As someone that's been a part of the World Cup, a part of the U.S. men's national team, do you get the sense that this is kind of the norm, that national teams for any sports always have this extra pressure since they are representing our country?
Yeah, there's a heightened element to it, right, because the country's involved. And then, I think there's also the element of, the U.S. wanting to be the best and our fans always wanting to do better. But I think we have to, be cautious as well. It's a young team. I know people don't want to hear that. They want to hear us saying we're ready, we're this, we're that. But, it's no different than anything else. We have a young team that, has a lot of talent, but we have to temper expectations and make sure that we support them in a time where it's going to be a lot of pressure, a lot of expectation. Again, no different than some of the other major nations, and I understand that. But that doesn't mean that we can't, still be supportive. Demand the best, but still get behind the team and support them in what should be, I think, one of the best World Cups ever.
What's the difference between the squads when you were there, the 2010, 2014 World Cup with you, Landon Donovan, Clint Dempsey, the old guard, we'll say, versus sort of this new era of the men's national team? What sort of difference do you see?
I mean, there's a ton of differences. It's hard to compare eras. I think there's a lot of things that we went through that they won't go through. There's a lot of things they're going through that we didn't go through. So I don't think there's much sense to do that. I think the biggest thing to look at is, in any project like this, is the growth. And when you look at where this team started, how they performed the last World Cup and now this World Cup, they're on track. And I know sometimes the results in between, they make you feel a type of way, but we're in another World Cup. It's here on home soil. So I think the important thing is old guard, new guard, get together and really use this as an opportunity to showcase, what the game has become in our country and what it could be, right? Looking at the future. So that's how I try to look at it. That's how I'm approaching it. And again, man, for a soccer player, this is like creme de la creme, right? To have this come home, I'm just so excited for everybody involved in our game.
Yeah, and I love that Christian Pulisic's come out and said there's no drama, there's no beef. We've been hearing a lot of talk from the team themselves saying, just trust the process, essentially. We're going to be fine, healthy, and ready to go come the World Cup. But as a player, whether it's the U.S. men's national team or any team competing in the World Cup, it's in North America. You're changing time zones. You're changing borders, and there's so many different logistics that go into that. You've been a part of that in your previous experience. What is that like in preparation, and how difficult it is to just go into a whole different country and outside the soccer competition, deal with the other adversity off the field as well?
Yeah, that's always a challenge in a World Cup. You have the travel that goes into it, the discipline that you need to have, because you're basically on the road, 2.5 months if you get to the final, which is where you want to get to. So it's definitely a unique challenge. And then, now for us, we have the opportunity to host it, so it's a bit different. But everything's elevated. I mean, I can't say it enough. When you play for your club teams, it's one way, but when you have your country and these are the set of players that you have and you have to make the best of it, it just presents a different challenge. And so I think the players recognize that. I think this one will be even more exciting, selfishly, I believe, because it's in the United States. And I think, a lot of the players from around the world have fan bases here. A lot of these countries have fan bases here. So I think on the flip side, a lot of these nations will feel at home here, right? There's a lot of different pockets in the United States where diversity is recognized. So I think it'll be a World Cup I'm hopeful of. Everybody kind of feeling the support, stadiums being full throughout. And I think, if the Club World Cup taught us anything last summer, there'll be some great shows of emotion, right? Some great camaraderie and a lot of good things that we're going to see on the street. So I'm super excited to see that.
Let's move to NFL ownership, obviously. Bills Mafia, you have a minority ownership in this team that, a lot of people think potentially could be winning the Super Bowl. But what I think is interesting is the NFL has focused a lot on international expansion, mainly in Europe. You see so many of these games happening there, but not a lot of attention on the neighbors up north in Canada, which is where the Bills are coming into the picture here. Why was sort of trying to expand to promote this team in Canada such a smart idea for you guys?
I mean, I think it was needed. I think first and foremost, the fanfare for the Buffalo Bills and north of the border is incredible. We've seen it in Toronto. We've seen it in surrounding areas. So it's amazing to see, and you can do cool stuff like this. I'd be remiss not to mention this wonderful collaboration that we did with Peace Collective up in Toronto. You see it there, and
with the maple leaf on it.
It's so cool, and something like this, it dropped a few weeks back, and it was off the shelves in like 7-8 days, and it just shows you what the excitement is brewing up there. People can't wait to have us up there, and we're excited to really engrave ourselves more in the community, and we're hopeful of many great things to come from it. Most importantly, hopefully some more young Torontonian kids from surrounding areas, taking football up and passing through the ranks and playing for the Buffalo Bills one day.
Could we see games in Canada? Is the goal to get a Bills game in Canada?
I'm sure it's part of the conversation of things we can do that are tangible. I think the biggest part is the community aspect, and really the Buffalo Bills engraving themselves in the community, doing different type of things to identify the talent there, because there's so much talent north of the border that, are just as good and want an opportunity. So I think having the blend there and having the two sides work together to identify and just spread what the NFL is, I think will be a great initiative.
We've seen the NFL looking to expand in terms of games, but as you mentioned, for the Bills also looking to expand in terms of the audience to reach into Canada.
Yes.
And you're expanding into a whole different area with going from soccer as a legend to now being involved in the NFL. In the final 30 seconds we have with you, what made you interested in the Bills, the NFL, and getting a part in the ownership?
Yeah, I think, if you want to be in professional sports, the NFL is the ultimate place you want to be in, from the opportunity to learn, from the business side to also understanding, what it takes to make a first-class organization. I think a lot of people forget those things, and in Buffalo we have a terrific organization, led by Terry Pagula and his family. They built something incredible there, and to be able to kind of come in now and help add some things and again be a sponge and learn has been an incredible experience. So, super excited for myself, super excited for all the athletes that are having that entrepreneurial bug and wanting to get involved in different entities.
Well, congratulations on all the success that you've had on the field and off the field as well. U.S. men's national team legend and Bills minority owner Josie Altidore, thank you so much. And next, guys, on Front Office Sports Today, we're dissecting the WNBA playoffs. Don't go anywhere.
We all know nothing beats the energy of playing live roulette in a casino. But playing roulette online sure does have its perks. At the casino, you'll average 40 to 50 spins per hour. But online, you're looking at 100 to 150. The more spins, the more chance of wins. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
There's a little bit of a kerfluffle earlier today when there's an exception taken to a putt that wasn't given, and just the reactions were pretty unilateral from both sides of like, hey, that's not behavior that we're going to tolerate at this type of competition.
Can you talk to me about kerfluffle again? Can you run that word back? I've never heard that word before.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Who wants to go to Chicago in February for a Super Bowl? Hey, the NFL can host outdoor parties on Lake Michigan. Stop the madness at this point. But now I take a look at the Denver Broncos. Always fun in the Mile High City. Why? Because what a home field advantage. It's at elevation. It's going to be cold. It might snow, and Denver's going to have that advantage. You know what Denver goes? We're going to build a world-class facility that's going to be a dome.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid. It's the most beautiful time of the year. No, not because of foliage or pumpkin spice lattes. It's because of football. SportsGrid has you covered all season long, covering every snap, every score, and every line move. Prepare, watch, win. Weekends are for winners. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back, friends, to Front Office Sports Today. Well, the WNBA playoff picture is officially set, with the exception of the expansion. Golden State Valkyries, 7 of the 8 teams in the playoffs this year made the postseason last year. So let's bring in FOS reporter Colin Salau for more. Colin, what I think is so interesting is the gap that we're seeing between the teams that have an ownership group that own a team already in the city compared to the independent owners out there.
Yeah, only 2 independent out of the 5 independent teams made the WNBA playoffs this year, that being the Atlanta Dream, who are going to be one of the best team, probably second or third, and the Seattle Storm, who are likely going to be, 7th or one of the bottom teams. And then the other 3 are the 3 worst teams in the league, the Connecticut Sun, the Dallas Wings, and the Chicago Sky. And not only that, all 3 of them won 75% or less of their games this year. Meanwhile, all 8 teams that made the playoffs are above 500. That's the first time that that's happened since 2011, when one of the teams, the Tulsa Shock, went 3-31. So you could see that there is a wide gap, and I think The Athletic even had a report, an anonymous player poll, I think about a couple months ago, that said that the Wings, the Sun, and the Sky were 3 of the worst run organizations in the league. So there's been a lot of conversations in the WNBA about, player treatment, and it's seeing itself in the standings, I think.
And I know we've talked so much about the Golden State Valkyries making history as an expansion franchise to become the first ever to make the playoffs, or even the Indiana Fever making the playoffs without Caitlin Clark. But now this makes me wonder, we've been missing the bigger picture, that this is the haves and have-nots also. Finances, NBA ownership, facilities, resources that are directly impacting on the court. What do you make of just how this has showed how polarizing the WNBA is, that there is a gap that needs to be addressed?
Yeah, I mean, this is a conversation that if you talk to anybody across the league, that is very real, that there is a gap, and the WNBA has prioritized NBA ownership or NBA affiliation for its expansion teams as well, right? 5 more in the coming until 2030. All of them are either owned by the NBA team in their city or have some level of ownership. What I make of it is that it's another sign of the gaps, like you said, and just perhaps the WNBA showing more proof that, hey, if you want to be an owner that's not affiliated with the league, like, you have to be willing to invest. That being said, there are, issues with that, as we could see right now with the Connecticut Sun. The WNBA is, trying to maneuver its way reportedly to move the Sun to Houston under Tillman Fertitta, who also owns the Rockets. So there's so many complicating factors there, but the fact of the matter is, if you look at the standings, this gap is clear. Yeah, I think the facilities part is the main thing. We see that with, I think the Golden State Valkyries are actually, the living proof of that they were able to show, hey, we're an expansion team. We're so successful. And a lot of it is because of Joe Lacob and his success with the Warriors. I've had conversations with people in Cleveland. That's kind of where their biggest pitch was, that we have all these facilities from owning the Cavaliers as well. So I do think that they're going to use this probably as leverage. And let's not forget that 42% of the WNBA is owned by the NBA.
Very good stat. FOS reporter Colin Salau breaking this all down for us. Colin, thank you. And let's see what's bubbling over at the FOS water cooler. Well, Renee, 3-time Grand Slam champ Andy Murray might have retired from tennis, but now he's hoping to make a new career as a golfer, saying that he wants to take part in regional qualifying for the Open Championship. The former world #1 told The Athletic, quote, "In a couple of years' time, I'm hoping I'll be at a level where I won't totally disgrace myself, but you never know." He did say he thinks maybe he can get to the qualifying, but he doesn't think he's good enough to actually make the actual tournament.
There's been a lot of changes for the Murray. Sir Andy Murray,
yes,
that is.
True.
His brother, actually, Jamie, just finalized his divorce today after 15 years of marriage. I'm like, what's going on with the Murrays that we're seeing career changes and life changes? But I will say for Andy specifically, 38 years old, when you're done and you retire in 2024, you still have so much time, and golf is a sport you can play later on into life, so to speak. So I like the fact he's been out on the course like 4 days a week.
Yes.
He's been actively training. He's not just talking the talk, he's walking the walk and golfing the golf, so to speak. So I think for Andy Murray, why not? I mean, you were world #1 in tennis. You're a great athlete. If golf is a pastime and a hobby, see if you can play it. I like he was at least honest and say, I'm considering only regional. This is not me trying to become.
Yes.
He's like, I don't have ambitions much beyond that, but I do want to at least play regionally and see where it goes.
Yes, I like he tempers expectations, but you have to think somebody who's won Grand Slams is so competitive that it's like, how do I get to the Masters? How do I get to the Open? How do I do all that? Guys, former NFL player and Fox Sports host Emmanuel Acho going to be joining us on the show on Friday. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye.